Good afternoon, everyone. I, Preeti Kashyap, welcome you all to the first CPD session of the year 2024, hosted by Estrand Publishing. Today marks the beginning of an enriching
Uh,
journey into the realm
just
of
a
educational.
just a minute. Participants, please turn off your mics because the voice is continuously echoing. Please turn off your mics.
Okay, shall we begin, Tanisha?
Yes, we can start the session now. But still, somebody's mic is on. I'm not sure.
I don't hear any sound. Uh, Tanisha, will you share the screen? I'm unable to
Sure.
see the screen. Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Preeti Kashyap, welcome you all to the first CPD session of the year 2024, hosted by Estrand Publishing. Today marks the beginning of an enriching journey into the realm of educational development, particularly focusing on enhancing writing skills within our classrooms. We would like to celebrate the success of Estrand's CPD initiative from the last year. The enthusiastic participation garnered over 42,000 registrations globally, with more than 12,000 dedicated educators in attendance across various sessions. This overwhelming response has inspired us to continue fostering professional growth and excellence in education. Furthermore, all our CPD sessions are thoughtfully aligned with National Education Policy 2020 and National Curriculum Framework 2023. This ensures that our content and discussions resonate with the evolving educational landscape, promoting innovative and effective teaching practices. That was just a glimpse of the success story from the last year. Now, let's begin this year's journey with dynamic and more impactful CPD sessions. I am thrilled to introduce our CPD speaker for today, Ms. Manisha Dak, an accomplished teacher educator, materials developer, and language assessor with a wealth of experience in English language teaching spanning over 2 decades. Her impressive credentials include multiple advanced degrees from several professional certifications obtained from prestigious institutions in India, the UK, and the United States. Ms. Manisha Dak's expertise extends beyond conventional teaching methods. She has dedicated her career to refining pedagogical approaches and enhancing language acquisition strategies. Today, we are privileged to benefit from her insights and practical wisdom on the topic methodical practice for developing writing in the classroom. I encourage each one of you to actively participate in the session. Feel free to share your thoughts and experience in the interactive segments. Let's make this collaborative learning experience that resonates with our individual teaching contexts. So before I hand it over to Ms. Manisha, I'd like to mention some housekeeping rules to you. Participants will be muted throughout the entire session. Please ensure you have a pen and a paper to note down important information. The chat box will only be enabled during Q&A round and as required by the speaker. To receive e-certificates, please fill out the feedback form that will be sent to your registered email ID after the session. Remember to participate in the quiz after the third session of the day, which ends at 5:30 p.m. We will share the quiz link after the session ends. So without any further delay, let's extend a warm welcome to Ms. Manisha Dak as she enlightens us with her profound insights. Let's begin the session, ma'am. Ms. Dak, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for that lovely introduction and setting the background, setting the tone for today's webinar. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar once again. Before we begin, can we quickly type in the chat box which city you are from and what you do? So, Manisha, Delhi, teacher educator and materials developer. Can you quickly write so that I know where my audience is located? Just a few seconds. Wow, we have somebody from Doha as well, New Delhi, Delhi. Also write who you are. Like, are you a teacher, teacher educator, principal, administrator? Okay, Carola Trivendram. Hi, Mir. Dimple, hi, hello, Dimple. Okay. Right. Most of you teachers, some of them are lecturers as well. Fantastic. All right. Lovely. I think teachers from across the world and probably some outside India as well. Welcome everyone once again. So let's get started with today's topic. As it was mentioned, the topic is about writing. I've kept the webinar very simple today. So the focus of the webinar is going to be on experiencing how exactly to go about writing in the lesson rather than me telling you, do this, do that in your class. Because I realized that it's very easy sitting in front of the computer, the screen, and telling you, do this, do that in your class, engage your learners, encourage collaborative learning, and a lot of other tips. I think what is important is actually experiencing how to go about developing writing skills of our learners. Okay, so let's get started then. The focus of this webinar is fourfold. In the beginning, we'll briefly talk about writing as a skill. We will then experience a demonstration lesson. So I will actually deliver a lesson in which I will treat you as my learners, and I'll show you how to go stage by stage, step by step, to make sure that your learners write by the end of the lesson. And here I would urge all the participants to participate actively, because if you don't participate, then the demonstration lesson might fall flat. So please do participate. Also keep a paper and a pen, pencil ready, because you would be writing. Based on the demonstration lesson and your understanding, we will then talk about stages in writing. So we will reflect on the lesson and the stages that we used and what other activities we can do for each of these stages. And at the end, we will have some time for questions and answers. All right, let's get started then. So let's talk about writing as a skill. To begin with, I have these two questions. What is writing and what is its purpose? Can you type in the chat box just a word or a phrase? What is writing according to you? Okay, it's a skill, phrase, expression. All right, phrases and expressions are vocabulary, of course. Communication, that's important. To engage students what they know. I mean, that could be done through speaking as well. Expression of mind, means of communication, skill in communication. I'm still looking for something specific. Okay, mode of communication, creativity, critical thinking, relevance, emotional expression, motor skill development. I wonder how we develop motor skills through writing. Oh yes, of course, writing, holding a pencil and all that for young learners, of course, yes. All right, so most of you are saying it is expression of communication, expression of one's feelings, words, expressions, script, all of that. Thank you. So what is writing? Let's understand what writing is as a skill. So writing is a system of written symbols. And these symbols are represented by these symbols represent the sounds, all the words of language, and they are used along with some other mechanisms such as capitalization, spelling, punctuation, word form, and function. So on one hand, it is a set of written symbols that the learners need to learn to use. The next thing, as some of you very rightly said, it is meant for conveying thoughts in the written form, because we also convey our thoughts through speaking. So when we talk about writing, we definitely focus on the written form of expression. The learners express their ideas and facts through easy and lucid language. And when I say easy, I don't mean easy in terms of simple vocabulary or simple structures, but easy in the sense of clarity of thoughts and expressions. Okay? So if we want our learners to be effective writers, we need them to be equipped with these two things. They need to be able to use the system of written symbols, that's one. And then using that system, they should be able to convey their thoughts and ideas and facts to the readers. Okay, now with this understanding, if as teachers we are supposed to equip our learners into these two things, what do you think you should do as a teacher? So what comes to your mind when you think of teaching writing? How do you feel? You could answer any of the questions. What comes to your mind? How do you feel when teaching writing? In the chat box, please. How do you feel when teaching writing? Very good, Mamita. Format, fantastic. Very important when you ask your learners to write. Content, worksheets. Worksheets, you mean tasks that you need. I'm not sure what you mean by satisfaction, Sabha. Sentence structures, yes. use of vocabulary, creative writing, error-free writing, okay? All right, sentence formation again. So, all right, so most of the responses revolve around format, use of vocabulary, use of grammar, giving a shape to your thoughts, how much the child knows, okay? All right, fantastic. So all the things that come to your mind are probably relevant to the skill of writing. Now let's talk about learners then. So this was about you. Let's talk about learners. What challenges do you think your learners face when writing? Can you share some challenges in the chat box? How do learners feel when they're asked to write? Confusion about letter formation, okay. Fear, right? We're talking about challenges. So what you have written here is, of course, that's important for writing, but hesitation, yes, that's right. So talk about challenges. Grammatical errors, lack of confidence. All right. Okay, so I think mostly like some of the expression, laziness, somebody said, fantastic. So laziness, fear, hesitation, confusion about the format, what vocabulary, grammar to use, etc. Thank you. Let's look at some of the challenges here then. So one of the primary challenges that learners face when writing is some of them are reluctant. They don't want to write. They don't want to get started. That's one challenge. The other is some of them are indecisive, like they don't know what to write, what to include, what points to cover in their writing. And some of them who are very good at writing, but are perfectionist writers. So they keep writing and rewriting and editing and re-editing their work and take a lot of time, a long time before they can finally submit their work. So that's one challenge that we face, different kinds of learners. Many teachers say that my learners don't write enough in the class. And that's primarily because maybe they do not have the required language, the required vocabulary or structures. So that's another challenge. They don't know what vocabulary to use or what structures to use when writing. It's time consuming and boring for some learners because there is no interaction happening in the class is silent, nobody's talking to each other, everybody's busy writing, and therefore they feel it's boring and time consuming because maybe because of lack of clarity in their thoughts and lack of language that they need for writing, it becomes time consuming. Sometimes they don't enjoy the task that they are writing about because they're unrelatable. They don't know why they're writing what they're writing, or there's lack of personalization. So that's another challenge that we have. Now, during this webinar, as you experience different activities, try and see if you find solutions to these problems. So we'll talk about these challenges. We'll refer to these challenges towards the end once again and see if we have found the solutions to these challenges. All right, so this is just to build the background to the webinar. Now, let's get ready for a demonstration lesson, okay? So I'm actually going to teach you something and you're going to write. Are you ready with a pen and a paper? Please be ready. You may not need it in the beginning, of course, but just keep ready because you would be needing it to make some notes later. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to demonstrate a lesson in which I'm teaching my learners an informal email of apology. Remember, it's an informal email and the function is apology. That's what we are doing. So as you participate in the demonstration, please look at the stages, pay attention to the stages that I'm following and what I'm doing in each stage. What are the different tasks that I'm doing before I ask you to write an email of apology, and what I do after you have written that. So please pay attention to these things and make notes. All right, let's get ready for the demonstration. Okay, so you're my learners, I'm your teacher now. All right, so look at these two pictures. Who do you think these two people are? What is the relationship between these two people? Can you share in the chat box? Who do you think Paul and Jen are? Employer and employee, colleagues, siblings, Boss and employee, lady boss and employee. They're people, of course, they're people. Student and teacher. Okay, 2 employees. All right, teacher, student. So, okay, father, daughter, someone says. So, father, daughter, 2 colleagues, husband, wife, siblings, boss and employee, student, teacher. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Now, the next question is, why do you think Paul is sad? So, thank you for answering about the relationship. Now, focus on this question. Why do you think Paul is sad? Maybe Paul is unwell, work pressure. Yes. Not confident. Paul is sad, Jen is happy. Yes. Why is Paul sad? Okay. Work pressure, lack of confidence. He didn't like the teacher. All right. All right. So fine. All are valid reasons. Okay. Everybody, whatever you have said is a valid reason. We still don't know why Paul is sad. Thank you. So let's now find out why Paul is sad. I'm going to show you an email. And you will read the email and answer these 3 questions. So read the questions first. Okay, now read the email and answer the questions in the chat box. When you answer the questions in the chat box, please write the question number. That would be easier. Yeah, that's right. Some of you have answered the first question. Paul has written this email to Jen. All right. Thank you. Question 2. Yeah, so Paul to Jen. What is the email about? Okay, about virus, yes. An apology, it is about an apology, but the email is about virus, and that is why he's apologizing. Fantastic. And some of you have already answered the third question. So yes, the email is about an attachment containing virus or an email containing virus. And yes, you are right. It's a bad news. Thank you. So can you write why it is a bad news? Why it is a bad news? Okay, why is it a bad news? Okay, because a virus, yes, because it affects others too. It might, it would spread, that's right. And it would get into, it would get sent to other contacts if people would open that attachment. Thank you so much. I love the participation that I can see here at the moment. All right, so we have looked at, we have understood the email. Now, let's look at the email one more time. And this time, I want you to underline or find out, make a note of the phrases for apology that the email has used. Can you identify the phrases for apology? Yeah, and write down in the chat box. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, by mistake. Very good. Yeah, so there are 2 expressions that are very explicit, and by mistake, of course, I can accept that as well. So the email uses these 2 expressions. I'm sorry, and I'm really sorry. And by mistake, of course, we can take that also as the third expression for apology. Now, do you know some other phrases that we can use to apologize in informal contexts? So stop there right now. And now think about the other expressions that you can use to apologize in an informal context. Like when talking to friends or people you know very well. My bad. Yes, that's a good phrase. Apologies, pardon, sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, I'm afraid. Think about more informal phrases. Yes, forgive me. Okay, can you please help me? Sorry, I regret, I made a mistake. Okay. All right, fantastic. So we have a list of phrases. So if you're delivering this lesson in the class, you would have these phrases listed on the board. Okay. Thank you. Many expressions. Some of them are formal though. So please make sure that we only talk about informal phrase, something that I can use with my friend or I can use with my mother, or something that I will not use with my boss or will not use in a formal setting like office or people you don't know. Okay. Right. So so if you can note down or take a photo, I think that would be easier. Take a photo of these expressions. So this is a list of expressions. Some of you have mentioned some of these. There might be some of the new phrases here. Yeah, goofed up or messed up. That's a nice phrase, Kamalji. Okay, so take a photo of this because we will need these expressions later. Okay, now Paul wrote an email to Jen. Now Jen has replied to Paul's email. However, what has happened is her email is not in the correct order. Can you read this email and arrange the sentences of the email in the correct order? Just write the letters at one go. So to begin with, what do you think is the first sentence of the email? Or the first thing that would come? Hi, Paul, absolutely. C. Now, stop there. Now write all the letters at one go. So write the entire order, take some time, and then post it in the chat box. So take a few seconds, arrange the email in the order. Now, if you're in the class, obviously you can give them cut-ups and ask learners to arrange the cut-ups in the correct order. That's another way of engaging learners in organizing this email in the correct order. Take your time, I'm waiting. Yes, some people have posted the answer to 2 as well. CE, yeah, all right. It would be nice if you could, yes, thank you, Sudeshna. Sanita, thank you for writing the entire order. All right, thank you. Let's check. So whatever you have written, let's check if that's correct. Yeah, check. Okay, so this is the correct order of the email. Now let's do the next thing. So we have got the email by Jen in the correct order. I want you to match the sentences in the email with 1 to 6. So match like C, E, D, G, B, F, A with 1 to 6. Some of you have written FBA, that's fine. We can accept that as well. Sorry about that, could you send it again? But I think sorry about that would be more appropriate after B, could you send it again? Because you are troubling, I mean, you are bothering someone, right? You are asking someone to send the email again. And therefore, you're saying sorry once again at the end. So sorry about that. F is more appropriate after B. But if your learners have written FB, I would accept that as well. Right, so C is 5. Yeah, hi, Paul, that's greetings. Sorry, I deleted the email you just sent. All right. Okay, thank you. Let's check. Let's check if your order is correct. Okay, so this is the order. Greeting, then it's why I'm sorry, what happened, and what to do next or not to do, and final apology and goodbye. All right, so far we have got the structure of the email and the phrases, the list of phrases that we had earlier. Now it's your turn to write an email. Okay, so we're not writing an email straight away. We'll first plan for our email. So how do we do that? Think of a situation from your personal life when you did something wrong. Yeah, or something bad to someone. By mistake. Yeah, it was not intentional. You did that by mistake. Think about a situation and make notes for these 3 questions. So on your paper, or maybe, I don't know if you want to write in the chat box, you could do that. Answer these 3 questions, just the notes. You don't need to write full sentences, just the words, keywords, phrases. So think about what did you do? Why did you do it? And what would you do or say to this person? Just think and make notes. Remember, we are not writing an email yet. All right, someone says, I spoke rudely with someone. Okay, as long as that was unintentional. Okay, I'm going to give you about 1 minute's time to kind of think about and lost someone's belonging, misbehaved with someone, okay, rude, interrupted, behaved badly, hurt someone's sentiments. Yes, I mean, these are all common problems, common mistakes. Okay, now shift to writing, thinking of the answers, making the notes. And you can make notes on a piece of paper that you have. I think the music in the background would have been nice. Okay. Oh, somebody has written quite long. Right. All right. So now that you have your notes, don't worry if you don't have detailed notes. You just need some notes. Let's start writing our email now. So do you remember the structure of the email? Do you remember what's the first thing, then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth? Do you? Yeah, okay, greeting. We begin with the greeting, of course. Someone says I'm not audible. I hope I'm audible to others. Or it's the purpose, or maybe apology. Yeah, we begin with the apology. All right, so don't worry if you don't remember, because I'm going to provide you with that. Thank you for confirming, Chanda. So this is what you need to write your email. Now, the notes that you have made, please make sure that you write your email following 1 to 6, that structure. So begin with the greeting, say why you're sorry, say what happened, what to do or not to do next, final apology, and goodbye at the end. Now, as you write your email following this structure, please don't forget to use the expressions of apology. At least try to use 2 to 3, if that's possible, in your email. Try to avoid I'm sorry and I'm really sorry. Try to use some new expressions that you have on the list. And make sure that when you're writing your email, you not only follow the structure 1 to 6 and the expressions from the list, but also answer the questions, those 3 questions. And don't write the questions in your email. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 2 minutes of time. Take your time. Don't send single sentences in the email, in the chat box. Please write a brief email and send it in the chat box. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. Someone again is saying, I'm not audible. There may be an issue with the setting at your end, Meena. Can you log out and log back in maybe? Or check your audio settings? Thank you. Thanks, great. Oh, sorry, it's not the name. I hope some of you are writing the email because I'm waiting to read some, and you should also be reading others. All right, those who have finished writing, if at all they're finished writing, you can start sending your email in the chat box. All right, someone has sent. Let's read. Okay, so someone is apologizing for. All right, thank you. Thanks for sending it. Shweta, thank you. Some more emails, please, because we would need those samples to do the next stage of our writing lesson. Thank you, Mamta. Okay. Yeah, more emails. Thank you, Parmeet. All right. So we have already got 3 emails in the chat box. And so don't worry if you're not finished. This is just to understand. So obviously in the classroom, you would give them a little more time. You would monitor closely how many of them have finished and whether you can move to the next stage. So we have some emails in the chat box. Please don't write any more. Unless it is an email, please don't send any other messages for some time because that might interrupt with our next stage of the lesson. So let the emails be there in the chat box for some time. Now, once the students have written the emails, sorry, just a second, please. All right. Let's review, let's read others' emails. Now, when you read others' emails, you need to keep certain things in mind. So keep these 4 questions in mind. So in the chat box, there are some emails. Keep the 4 questions in mind. Does the email answer the 3 questions? The 3 questions were, what did you do? What happened? And what next you decided to do? Something like that, and then the closing. So those 3 questions, those 3 questions should be answered, and have they used the phrases for apology? So does the email answer the 3 questions? Does the email have all the parts of an apology message? So we looked at 6 parts, right? From greeting to the closing, right? So we are greeting, saying sorry, and then what happened and what happened next, and what to do, what not to do, and then the closing. So make sure that the email had that structure. Does the email use different phrases for apologizing? And anything else that you might want to share, okay? Now, at the end of your review, when you finish reading others' emails based on these 4 questions, tell me in the, so obviously I'm jumping to the next stage, but tell me what feedback do you have? Whose email did you like the best? Or what suggestions do you have for others' emails? Can we do that in the chat box? Okay, so keep these things in mind. Have they used these 6 parts? Have they answered these 3 questions? And have they used the apology phrases? And anything else that you might want to share. Just spend about a couple of minutes reading others' emails and choose any 1 or 2 and then give some feedback if whether you liked it, you didn't like it. So for example, we have an email where the person has written only 3 sentences, and then I would give feedback that, all right, you have not used all 6 stages, or you have not answered all 3 questions. All right. Okay, so Sasirat is saying she liked SM's email. You can also give reasons why you liked somebody's email. All right. So the purpose of this stage is to engage peers in reading each other's work, but also keeping a checklist in mind, with the help of which they will be able to revise. They will be able to give feedback. Now, once the feedback is given, once the peer review is done, then you revise. So, for example, if I've got the feedback that, listen, you forgot to write the final apology at the end, please add that. Or you have used only one phrase of apology, use more. Or you have only answered 2 questions. The third question is not answered, please do that. So when you get this feedback from your peers, you then revise your work based on the feedback. And once the work is revised, then you could display the emails in the classroom. You can ask all the learners to go around and read each other's emails and come back and tell you whose email they like the best and why. Again, they could keep in mind the checklist. So once they come back, then you can conduct the feedback, ask your learners whose email they liked and why, and then give some feedback on the language. So while the learners are going around and reading others' emails, you also go around and read their emails and make a note of the errors. So maybe good usage of language or incorrect use of language, both these. Have a list of the sample language from their writing and then give feedback on language. So feedback on content would be, you ask learners whether you whose email you like the best and why. And feedback on language would be wherein you write all those good expressions and the incorrect expressions on the board. Or you could write while you are monitoring, while you're observing the learner, so that you don't spend time writing those things while students just wait for you to finish writing. And then you can give feedback. You can appreciate the good phrases, the good use of language, and then you can correct the errors. But correct the errors with the help of your learners. Okay, so this was a writing lesson from the first stage till the last stage. What are your impressions about the writing lesson? Tell me, do you think learners had enough support in this lesson? Do you think by the end of the lesson, learners would have a fair idea of how to go about writing their emails? Do you think the lesson had enough support in terms of language and the structure and the sample? Okay. All right, thank you. So mostly yeses. Right. So that's how you go about a writing lesson. You don't ask your learner straight away, all right, write an email of apology, use these expressions. I think you need to go through stages one after the other. All right. Now that we have experienced the lesson, the writing lesson, what do you think are the stages in writing? Okay. So there are 3 broad stages that we talk about when we talk about writing. We talk about before writing stage, during writing, and after writing. Before writing stage is all the activities that learners do before they're asked to write, before the teacher expects them to write. That's a before writing stage. So in the chat box, can you tell me what were our before writing activities? Do you remember what we did before I asked you to write an email? Can you name the activities that we did? Setting the background, yes. Thank you, Himshweta. Observing the pictures, yes, so setting the context basically. So when I shared that picture, I was setting the context or a lead in, sort of creating interest in the lesson. Read the sample email, absolutely. I think of the situation came much later. We did something else also before that. Planning, before planning, there was something else that I did. Does anybody remember? Before you planned your email. So we read the sample, but what did we do while we read the sample? Of course, read first. Yes, phrases. Okay, the structure of the email. So those were 2 important things that we did before I asked you to plan your email. Right. Now, when I asked you to plan your email, okay, stop there. Thank you. Now the next question, the during stage. So the during stage is the one where you are asking your learners to actually write or do the actual writing task. So tell me, what did I ask you to do while you were writing? What all did I provide to you? 3 questions. Think of situation. That was a planning, of course. Now we have started writing. So what have I provided the learners at the time of writing? Questions, yes. Expressions. And there's one more thing. One more thing, the structure, okay? So the sequence, absolutely. So I gave you these 3 things. I gave you the structure, I gave you the list of phrases, and then I gave you the questions, and then you had your notes. And with the help of all those things, I think the task of writing an email become a little easier for us, okay? What did I do after you finished writing and when you shared your email in the chat box? Answer that question first now. What activities did we do after you finished writing? Review. Yes. And somebody said checklist. Yes, I gave you a checklist to help you review your peers' work. Now, why do you think a checklist is important? Is because don't ask learners to just go around and say, read everybody's email. No, they need to know what they're reading for. What are they looking for in that email? So it's important to give a checklist. And the checklist could depend on the type of writing task that you are giving, or the kind of writing that they have produced. So the checklist would change depending on the nature of the task. Yes. So we did peer review. What else happens after writing? So peer review is done. Then what happens? Checklist and peer evaluation done. Once the evaluation is, once peers have, yes, feedback. They give the feedback to others based on the checklist. And once you receive the feedback, what happens after that? After the feedback, what do I do once I receive the feedback? Appreciation and correction comes much later. Yes, revising your work. Okay. So based on the feedback, you revise your email, and then you recheck for punctuation, spelling errors, or any grammar errors that you want to check your work for. And then you finally submit your work. You finally publish your work, which was, and we said that we would have a gallery walk, where you display everybody's work and they go around and read. Or you could collect and then look at it. But it would be nice to get your learners to read everybody's work. Okay. All right. So this is what we do. Now, assuming that you have got a fair idea about the 3 stages in the writing lesson, let's look at some of the activities that we can do for each stage. But I'm not going to tell you for what stage that activity is. You need to tell me whether it is before, during, or after. So if it is before, just say B. If it is during, say D. And if it is after writing stage activity, then you say A. So if you don't want to write the entire one. So be ready. I'll show you 3 examples. I'm sorry, before that, yeah, these are the stages that we generally follow. We can talk about that a little later as well. We have spoken about these. Now, example 1. So I, as a teacher, want my learners to write a personal profile. Yeah. And I provide them with this sample in which they have the profile of someone else, an example, a sample profile with a picture, where the profile is divided into different paragraphs, and then each paragraph has certain highlighted phrases that I want my learners to use when they build their personal profile. So that's the sample. Now I'm going to show you some tasks around that, and tell me if it is before, during, or after, B, D, or A. Tell me. Write your profile, use your notes and the phrases to help you. Is it a before, during, or after writing activity? What is it? Okay, most of you have said before. Now that's incorrect. Only some of you are saying D, because remember, look at this. It says write your profile, which means that they're actually writing their profile. Yeah. So this is the during stage and not before stage. So please adjust that understanding. Every time you ask your learners to write, that's the during writing task. This is the actual writing task. Okay. Try again, no problem. You could get right the next time. So let's look at the next one. This one. Before, during, or after? That's right. It's A, after. Because only after you have written that you will be able to check your profile for mistakes related to grammar, punctuation, or spelling. Thank you. Let's look at one more. Okay. All right. Thank you. Stop there now and let's look at one more. Now, I want my learners to read the sample that's provided and complete the table, the first two columns. I want them to write the content for each paragraph, and they can choose the type headings from the box given above the table, and then they write the phrases from each paragraph and complete the table. Is it before, during, after? Definitely before, yes. So you're preparing your learners for writing their profile. So you are drawing their attention to the structure and the phrases used in each paragraph. And you are also setting the requirement of the number of paragraphs that they need to have in their personal profile. All right, let's look at one more. Yeah. Can your profile add notes to my information? Before, during, after? What is it? Some of you are saying after, some of you are saying before. So it says plan your profile. When do you plan? Do you plan after writing or before writing? Before writing, right? So plan your profile, add notes to my information. That is before writing. So in the last column, learners then write their personal information to help them draft their personal profile later. All right. Okay. Let's try. Okay. So you got some practice now. Let's be quicker now in the next example. So my next task is I want my learners to write a photo blog, using their favorite picture. And obviously, I would give them the sample. So they are given a description of a favorite photo blog of someone, and they do these reading tasks, read the description and complete it with the word from the list, and then they match the questions with the paragraphs in which they will find the answers. Before, during, after? Before. Yes, you're exposing them to a sample of a photo blog. And by using these questions, you are also exposing them to the correct structure that they need to follow. Okay. All right. This one. Write about your favorite photo, answer the questions, and use the highlighted phrases if you can. Before, during, after? Yes, most of you are saying D, only a couple B's. Yes, it is during. Read the instruction. It says write about your favorite, your favorite photo. Okay, so it is, you're expecting learners to now actually write. Okay, let's look at this one. Before, after, during? Yes, after, because it's checking their work for any language errors. This one, the last one. Plan your description. Think about your answers to the questions in B. Before, after, or during? Before, yeah, because they're planning their description. All right. So lovely. I think you've got an idea about different types of activities that we can do before, during, and after. The only thing that we need to remember is the before stage focuses on preparing learners for the writing stage. So it would have a sample, the study of the sample, the work on the useful language, and then planning. The during writing stage would focus on the actual writing task, and the after writing stage would focus on peer review, peer review, feedback, revision, editing, and the final publishing. So these are the three broad stages in a writing lesson. Okay, so I hope you have got a good understanding by now about the stages. There's one more example, but I think you've got it. So I'm not going to do the third one. I'm just going to skip it. And let's talk about things that we need to consider when we design writing tasks. So I'm going to show you two examples of a task. It's the same task, but presented in two different ways. Tell me, which one do you think is a better design of a writing task? And why? So is it example 1 or 2? Which is a better writing task? Which has been designed really well? Absolutely, it's number 2. And why do you think number 2 is a better example of a writing task? Why? Give me the reasons now. Self-explanatory, somebody says, yes, hints, cues are given, there are phrases given, guidelines given, fantastic, okay? So when you design a writing task or when you ask your learners to write, make sure that you have these things clearly defined. So what's the purpose of writing? So for example, the purpose here was to invite the friend for the trip. You wanted your friend to join the trip. Who's the audience? The friend. And the points to cover. What is it that they need to cover in the email? So where you're going, what you plan to do, what you want your friend to bring along, these are the points to cover. Useful language, what phrases they can use. Example, obviously, before you ask them to write, you have already given them an example of a letter and a word limit. So make sure that your writing task includes these things for them to be self-explanatory and have learners, provide enough support to learners so that they are able to write it. Okay, and when you ask learners to write, they already looked at it, prepare your learners for writing, of course, so do all that is required. Encourage collaborative writing, because sometimes, they write all by themselves and it becomes a little boring. So for some tasks, you can actually have a collaborative writing task. They could divide the parts that they're writing about. They could contribute the points, of course, to the entire writing piece, but they are doing it together. So, some interaction, some buzz in the class. Make class interesting and personalized. So if it doesn't have a connection to their real life, or if they don't see the utility of that task in their real life, I think they are less likely to feel motivated to write. And get them started from wherever they can. Sometimes if you ask your learners to write an essay, they don't know where to begin, but they're very clear about how they would like to end their essay. So it's all right. Get them started from the end. And it's all right. And then they can look at the middle, and then they look at the beginning. So whichever part they're more confident about, you can get your learners started from there. Okay, so by now, I think the challenges that we looked at earlier, I think, do you think we have solutions to some of those challenges? Like we have reluctant writers, we have lack of vocabulary and grammar structures, or things like that. Do you think you've got some ideas in terms of how to make your class interesting? All right. Okay. There are definitely some more ideas. I'll just take 1 minute and run you through, and then we'll have some time for questions. I'm just going to display it. So sentence expansion is one. At a lower level, you could start with simple sentences. They can add a word or two every time they write the next sentence. Okay, that's one. The next is sentence reduction. So they do completely the opposite of that. They reduce the length of the sentence in a way that the sentences remain grammatically correct. Okay. You have the guided story writing. So if they have a difficulty writing the entire story, you could just give them some cues and they only write the pink parts. And once they develop that confidence, they could then write, you could just give them a 5-sentence story, which follows the story diagram. Okay, so these are some more ideas that you can have in class. I will not go beyond this. I think there are many more ideas, but I'm sure you can Google them, you can watch YouTube videos about that. So thank you so much. That's all for the session today. And I hand over to the host.
Wow, that was a very interactive session. A very heartfelt thank you to Ms. Manisha Dak for your illuminating presentation today. Your expertise and passion have enriched our understanding of effective pedagogy. Participants, we will now take up your questions. Please post your questions in the chat box and Ms. Manisha Dak will answer that for you.
All right. I mean, you can let me know if there are questions. And meanwhile, probably, I think it's the chat box is full with suggest some writing strategies for primary students. Yeah. Well, you might want watch the webinar last year, I think I did a webinar on developing writing skills in 2022. So if you go to S-Chan Publishers CPD Resource Bank, you would find loads of activities for lower level learners. So some of them could be, as I discussed just now, like guided story writing, I think is an apt example for lower level students where they're not still able to construct the entire sentence. So you could say, all right, once upon a time, there lived a girl. Her name was, stop there. Let them write the name of the girl as per their choice. So you could kind of follow that. Or you could just give them a frame, a picture frame, and ask them to kind of write one turn dialogue based on that. But as I said, that webinar that I presented last year has loads of ideas about doing writing activities for low-level learners.
Ma'am, there's another question. Can you suggest interesting starters for writing?
Interesting starters for writing. You mean, I didn't quite get the question. Well, if I've understood the question correctly, so sometimes learners do not know where to begin. Yeah. And if you have given them the structure of the writing, you could actually give them the starting of the writing. Yeah. So you could give them some linkers that they could use. So for example, if they want to argue or counter argue, what are the linkers that they could use? You could provide the useful language and the structure to the task. Some people are asking about how to motivate learners. I think doing a lot of interesting activities before the writing and giving them enough, and how the writing is going to be used after the writing stage, depending on that probably, and bringing in lots of pictures and lots of visuals and engaging, I think that's very important to motivate learners. So when they can see the final product in front of them, I think they feel that sense of achievement. I think starters would be, so again, I'm going back to the previous question where I can think of two ideas. You could have writing prompts. I mean, I had an example of writing prompts. If I can share that, can I share that? Maybe I'll share my PPT one more time. And so, for example, these are some of the prompts. You know, you could have a card like that, and then give these prompts to them and help them write further. So they know that they need to structure that. They need to have these details in the writing. Somebody said how to motivate learners. I think have creative writing stations in the classroom. So once you have introduced certain types of writing in the class, for example, letter writing or message writing or sentence expansion or sentence reduction, all these types of writing, have different creative writing stations in your classroom, where one station will have one type of writing. And each writing station will have a card like this. The question could be different. You could have a card like that in which there are instructions and there's enough support for the learner. And it's up to the learners which writing station they would like to go to and which writing task they would like to attempt. So when the learners can do what they're more confident about, excuse me, I think that is also one way of motivating them, because they can finally see that they're able to write. And then there might also be learners in your class who would want to go to a writing station which is challenging because they want to challenge themselves. So I think that helps both types of learners, the learners who are hesitant writers and also those who are confident writers and are interested in the challenge. Is there any question? I hope that helps you motivate your learners in the class.
Ma'am, we have mostly answered all questions.
Right.
I think we can wind up the session. We have another session of you starting at 3:15.
Yes.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for this enlightening session. And as educators committed to continuous improvement, let's apply these learnings in our teaching contexts. Special thanks to all the participants for your active engagement and thoughtful contribution throughout the session. Your enthusiasm fuels our collective pursuit of educational excellence. Stay tuned for more opportunities to expand our knowledge and refine our teaching methodologies in our upcoming 2 sessions today. We look forward to your next session, ma'am, on Beyond the Text,
Right.
guiding students to analyze, reflect, and question at 3:15 p.m.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for active participation, and I hope to see you again at 3:15. I'll see you in about 13 minutes.
Thank you.